Have you ever noticed how easily a single comment can ruin someone's entire day? One sentence, one look, one moment of doubt, and suddenly their mood collapses, their confidence fades, and their decisions spiral. Now ask yourself honestly, how many times has that happened to you? How many times has your peace been taken away by something small, something external, something you didn't truly control? This is not weakness, this is conditioning. Most people are mentally easy to break because they were never taught how the mind actually works. From childhood, we are trained to react. React to praise, react to criticism, react to fear, react to pressure. The world teaches speed, not strength. It rewards loud emotions and punishes calm thinking. And over time, people begin to believe that their emotions are their identity. That belief is the crack where everything breaks. Here is the uncomfortable truth. The average person does not lose because they are incapable. They lose because their mind is constantly being pulled in different directions. Their emotions are triggered before their logic can respond. Their attention is hijacked before their self-control wakes up. And once that happens, they are no longer in charge. Someone else is. Mental weakness is rarely visible at first. It hides behind smiles, behind ambition, behind business. But it reveals itself in moments of pressure, when plans fail, when rejection hits, when someone challenges your value. That is when most people collapse internally, not because the situation is impossible, but because their inner foundation is fragile. Society does not teach mental strength. It teaches emotional expression. It teaches you to let it out, not to master it. It teaches you to seek comfort, not control. And comfort feels good in the short term, but it quietly trains the brain to avoid discomfort at all costs. Over time, the mind becomes allergic to pressure, and a mind that cannot handle pressure cannot handle power. This is why mentally strong people feel rare. Calm people feel intimidating. Focused people feel distant. Not because they are better, but because they operate on a different internal system. They are not controlled by every feeling that passes through them. They understand something most people don't. Thoughts are temporary, emotions are signals, not commands, and reactions are choices even when they feel automatic. Most people live in a reactive loop. Something happens, they feel something, they act without thinking, then they regret it. Then they repeat it. This loop keeps the mind predictable, and anything predictable is controllable. That is why emotionally reactive people are easy to manipulate. Their buttons are exposed, their triggers are obvious. Their behavior can be anticipated. Being mentally untouchable starts with seeing this clearly, not with motivation, not with confidence, but with awareness. Awareness that your mind has been trained, not designed to react. Awareness that you can retrain it. Awareness that strength is not loud, it is quiet. It is slow, it is deliberate. Right now, you may think your reactions are just who you are. They are not, they are habits, and habits can be broken. The brain is plastic. It reshapes itself based on what you repeatedly practice. If you practice reacting, you become reactive. If you practice restraint, you become composed. If you practice awareness, you become dangerous in the calmest way possible. This is why most people remain mentally vulnerable. They never pause long enough to question their internal patterns. They blame the world. They blame people. They blame circumstances. But the real issue lies inside. A lack of emotional discipline, a lack of internal boundaries, a lack of psychological armor. Here is the shift that changes everything. The moment you stop trying to control the world and start controlling your response to it, your power returns, slowly, quietly, permanently. You stop chasing approval. You stop defending your ego. You stop wasting energy on things that do not move your life forward. And something strange happens. People feel it. They sense your stability. Your calm unsettles those who rely on chaos. Mental strength is not about being fearless. It is about being unshaken, not about avoiding pain, but about refusing to let pain define you. Not about winning every battle, but about choosing which battles deserve your energy. This is the foundation of becoming mentally untouchable. And here is the reward for those who stay until the end of this journey. You will not just learn how to protect your mind. You will learn how to command it. You will see why certain people seem impossible to intimidate, impossible to manipulate, impossible to break. And more importantly, you will realize that this state is not reserved for a chosen few. It is built, lesson by lesson, decision by decision. Starting now, if mental weakness begins with uncontrolled emotion, then mental strength begins with one ruthless decision. You stop letting feelings lead your life. This is where most people misunderstand emotional detachment. They think it means becoming cold, distant, or empty. It doesn't. True detachment means you feel everything, but you obey nothing blindly. You observe your emotions instead of being possessed by them, and that single shift changes how the brain responds to pressure. Emotions are fast. They evolved for survival, not for wisdom. Anger wants immediate release. Fear wants immediate escape. Ego wants immediate defense. None of them care about long-term consequences. When emotions lead, clarity disappears. This is why emotional reactions feel powerful in the moment but leave regret afterward. The mind reacts first, and logic arrives too late. Detachment reverses that order. When you pause before reacting, you create space. That space is where power lies. In that space, you choose restraint over impulse, calm over chaos, silence over noise, and the brain begins to learn a new pattern. It realizes that not every emotional signal requires action. Over time, this rewires your nervous system. What once triggered you now barely registers, not because you are numb, but because you are in control. Self-control is not suppression. Suppression buries emotion until it explodes later. Self-control acknowledges emotion, then redirects energy. You don't deny anger. You decide how to use it. You don't deny fear. You study it. You don't deny sadness. You let it pass without letting it define you. This level of mastery separates those who are ruled by emotion from those who rule themselves. Silence is one of the most misunderstood forms of strength. Loud reactions make you predictable. Silence makes you unreadable. When you don't explain yourself, defend yourself, or react instantly, you disrupt expectations. People expect emotion. They expect justification. They expect resistance. When they don't get it, their control collapses. Calm becomes unsettling to those who rely on emotional leverage. This is why restraint feels uncomfortable at first. The ego hates it. The ego wants to prove, to argue, to correct, to be seen. But every time you resist that urge, you strengthen a deeper identity, one that does not depend on external validation to feel whole, one that does not crumble under pressure, one that does not need to win every exchange to remain confident. The mind learns from repetition. Each time you choose calm, you teach the brain that safety does not require reaction. Each time you choose silence, you teach the brain that strength does not need performance. Each time you choose control, you shrink the influence of triggers. Slowly, your emotional baseline changes. What once felt overwhelming now feels manageable. What once felt personal now feels distant. Detachment also sharpens perception. When you are not emotionally flooded, you see clearly. You notice patterns in people. You sense intentions behind words. You recognize manipulation before it reaches you. Emotional people are easy to move because they move themselves. Detached people are hard to influence because they wait. They listen. They decide. This does not make you passive. It makes you precise. You speak when it matters. You act when it counts. You conserve energy instead of leaking it through reactions. And that conservation builds presence. People begin to feel your weight in a room. Not because you dominate, but because you are centered. Self-control is a daily discipline. It is built in small moments that no one sees. When you choose not to respond to disrespect, when you choose not to argue with ignorance, when you choose not to explain your silence, each moment is a vote for the person you are becoming. A person who cannot be pulled into chaos. This is how mental invincibility starts to form. Not through force, not through aggression, but through mastery. You become emotionally flexible and mentally solid at the same time. You bend without breaking. You observe without absorbing. You engage without losing yourself. And as this control deepens, something powerful happens. External pressure loses its grip. Words lose their sting. Opinions lose their weight. You are no longer at the mercy of emotional weather. You become the calm center inside it. And once that happens, the mind becomes a place of authority, not vulnerability. Once emotions no longer control you, a deeper trap begins to reveal itself. It is quieter, more subtle, and far more dangerous. The need for validation. the hunger to be approved, liked, praised, and accepted. This is where even disciplined minds can become weak again without realizing it. Because validation does not feel like a chain at first. It feels like belonging. From an early age, most people are trained to look outward for permission. Permission to feel good about themselves. Permission to feel worthy. Permission to feel enough. Grades, likes, applause, compliments, titles, these become signals the brain learns to chase. Over time, self-worth becomes outsourced. And when your worth depends on others, your mind is never free. The psychology is simple but ruthless. Whatever you seek approval from controls you. If you need praise, you will adjust your behavior to get it. If you fear rejection, you will silence your truth to avoid it. This happens automatically. The brain prioritizes social safety because, historically, rejection meant danger. But in the modern world, this instinct keeps people mentally small. Seeking validation makes you predictable. Predictability makes you controllable. When people know what you want from them, they can give it or take it away. Approval becomes leverage. Silence becomes punishment. And suddenly, your confidence rises and falls based on reactions you cannot control. This is why mentally untouchable people do not chase acceptance. They understand that approval feels good, but dependence feels weak. They build a different foundation, one where self-respect comes before popularity, one where inner alignment matters more than external applause. Letting go of validation is uncomfortable because it triggers insecurity. The ego panics when it is no longer fed. It asks, what if they don't like me? What if I'm misunderstood? What if I'm alone? But here is the truth the ego avoids. Being misunderstood is a sign of independence. Being disliked is often the cost of honesty. And being alone for a while is better than being owned forever. When you stop seeking approval, your decisions change. You speak more clearly. You move more deliberately. You stop over-explaining. You stop defending every choice. You stop shrinking to fit into spaces that were never meant to hold you. This shift is quiet, but it is powerful. Self-validation does not mean arrogance. It means internal stability. It means you know who you are, even when no one agrees. It means your confidence comes from consistency, not compliments. You begin to measure yourself by your discipline, your integrity, your growth, not by opinions that change with mood and convenience. Psychologically, this rewires your reward system. Instead of dopamine coming from praise, it comes from progress. Instead of motivation coming from recognition, it comes from self-trust. And self-trust is unbreakable because it is earned, not given. Approval seeking also weakens boundaries. People who need to be liked struggle to say no. They tolerate disrespect. They accept less than they deserve. Over time, resentment builds, confidence erodes, and the mind becomes divided, outwardly agreeable, inwardly exhausted. This internal conflict drains energy and creates anxiety. When you release the need for approval, boundaries strengthen naturally. You no longer explain them. You simply live by them. And when boundaries are clear, mental peace follows. You stop negotiating your worth. You stop auditioning for acceptance. You become selective with your energy. This independence changes how others respond to you. Some will respect you more. Some will distance themselves. That is the price of mental freedom. Not everyone benefits from your strength. Not everyone is comfortable when they can no longer influence you. And that is not a loss. It is clarity. A mind that does not seek validation becomes grounded. It listens without absorbing. It receives feedback without collapsing. It learns without self-betrayal. Criticism becomes information, not identity. Praise becomes appreciation, not fuel. This balance is rare, and it is dangerous in the best way. As approval loses its grip, something else grows stronger. Inner authority. You begin to move with quiet confidence. Not because you feel superior, but because you feel anchored. You are no longer waiting to be chosen. You choose yourself, again and again. This is how mental untouchability deepens. First, you mastered emotion. Then, you reclaimed self-worth. The mind becomes less reactive, less dependent, less fragile. And with that independence comes a calm certainty that no opinion can shake. Then, continue to the next section, which should be 600, 800 words, following the same instructions above. Keep a clear flow, connecting smoothly to the previous section to make it feel professional. Never mention the motivational speaker or things like, On the next section, we will discuss. When you no longer depend on approval, life removes another illusion. The belief that pain is something to avoid. Most people spend their lives running from discomfort, mistaking ease for progress and comfort for safety. But the mind does not grow in comfort. It softens, and a softened mind breaks the moment pressure arrives. Pain is not the enemy people think it is. Pain is information. It exposes weaknesses. It reveals attachments. It shows where the mind still resists reality. Those who fear pain stay mentally fragile because they never let the mind adapt. Those who face it become sharp, grounded, and resilient. Psychologically, the brain strengthens through exposure. Just like muscles grow by stress and recovery, the mind grows by pressure and reflection. When pain is avoided, sensitivity increases. When pain is faced, tolerance expands. This is why small problems overwhelm some people while others remain steady in chaos. The difference is not luck, it is training. Most people personalize pain. They ask, "Why is this happening to me?" That question creates helplessness. It frames suffering as punishment. But mentally untouchable people ask a different question. What is this teaching me? That single shift transforms pain from a threat into a tool. Pain forces attention inward. It strips away distraction. It demands presence. And when you stop resisting it, something unexpected happens. You gain clarity. You see what matters. You see what doesn't. You see who you are without comfort acting as a mask. This is why adversity builds quiet strength. It humbles the ego. It dissolves entitlement. It replaces expectation with acceptance. And acceptance does not mean surrender. It means alignment with reality. The mind stops fighting what is and starts working with it. Resilient people are not those who suffer the least. They are those who interpret suffering correctly. They do not dramatize it. They do not romanticize it. They use it. They let it sharpen discipline. They let it deepen patience. They let it harden boundaries. Pain also reveals emotional attachment. When something hurts deeply, it shows what you were clinging to: control, identity, outcomes, people, expectations. The more attached you are, the more fragile you become. Pain teaches detachment faster than any philosophy. It forces release. This is where most people fail. They numb pain instead of understanding it. Distraction, escapism, noise. These provide temporary relief but long-term weakness. The mind never learns. The cycle repeats. The same lessons return in different forms, each time louder. When you face pain consciously, the nervous system adapts. What once felt unbearable becomes manageable. What once felt overwhelming becomes familiar. This adaptation is power. It means life can hit harder without knocking you down. It means stress no longer owns you. Pain also builds emotional immunity. After enough exposure, you stop taking everything personally. Loss no longer defines you. Failure no longer humiliates you. Rejection no longer controls you. You begin to see events as experiences, not verdicts on your worth. This creates inner stability. You stop chasing certainty because you can handle uncertainty. You stop fearing change because you trust your ability to adapt. And adaptability is one of the highest forms of intelligence. The mind becomes flexible without becoming weak. There is a reason calm people often have difficult pasts. They have been tested. Pressure refined them. Struggle taught them what truly matters. They are not calm because life is easy. They are calm because they have survived difficulty without losing themselves. Pain also eliminates illusion. It shows you who is real. It shows you where your values actually live. It exposes false confidence and builds real strength. And real strength does not announce itself. It simply endures. When you stop seeing pain as punishment, fear loses its power. You no longer dread challenges. You approach them with focus. You understand that every difficult phase is conditioning your mind to become more solid, more disciplined, more untouchable. This does not make life painless. It makes it meaningful. You stop asking for ease and start building capacity. And capacity is what separates those who survive from those who lead. By accepting pain as training, you remove one of the last tools the world uses to control people: fear. When fear fades, clarity rises, and a clear mind, trained by adversity, becomes a place of strength no chaos can invade. When fear loosens its grip, another battle quietly emerges. Not outside, but inside. The battle for attention. Attention is the gateway to the mind. Whatever holds it shapes your thoughts. Whatever shapes your thoughts shapes your emotions. And whatever shapes your emotions shapes your actions. Control attention, and you control your inner world. Most people believe they lack discipline. In reality, they lack direction of attention. Their focus is scattered across noise, opinions, problems, and distractions that drain mental energy. The brain was never designed to process this much stimulation. As a result, the mind stays restless, reactive, and exhausted. Distraction weakens self-control. Every time attention jumps, the brain releases small bursts of stimulation. Over time, it becomes addicted. Focus feels uncomfortable. Stillness feels boring. Silence feels threatening. And without realizing it, people lose the ability to sit with their own thoughts. Mentally strong individuals guard their attention like territory, not because they are rigid, but because they understand its value. Attention is finite. Once spent, it cannot be recovered. Giving it away carelessly is a form of self-betrayal. When attention is scattered, emotions fluctuate. When focus is stable, emotions settle. This is not philosophy, it is psychology. The mind follows where attention goes. If attention lives in problems, stress dominates. If attention lives in comparison, insecurity grows. If attention lives in resentment, bitterness hardens. But when attention is directed inward with intention, clarity forms. You begin to notice patterns in your thinking. You see when the mind spirals. You recognize when emotions attempt to hijack behavior. This awareness creates distance, and distance creates control. Control of attention does not mean avoidance. It means choice. You choose what deserves your mental energy. You choose when to engage and when to withdraw. You choose what enters your mind and what does not. This choice builds authority over your inner state. Focus also strengthens identity. When attention is consistent, actions become aligned. Goals stop feeling overwhelming because energy is not wasted. Progress becomes visible. Confidence grows naturally, not from belief, but from evidence. Evidence of discipline. Evidence of consistency. The world profits from distraction. Noise keeps people reactive. Overstimulated minds are easy to influence. Calm, focused minds are not. This is why stillness feels rebellious. It pulls you out of chaos. It restores autonomy. Training attention is uncomfortable at first. The mind resists. It craves stimulation. It seeks escape. But resistance is part of the process. Every time you return attention to the present, you strengthen a mental muscle. Every time you resist distraction, you reclaim control. Attention also shapes perception. When focused, small problems stay small. When scattered, minor issues feel massive. Focus creates proportion. It allows the mind to see clearly without distortion. This clarity reduces emotional reactivity and increases rational decision-making. Mentally untouchable people do not engage with everything. They are selective. They do not argue with noise. They do not chase every thought. They do not react to every trigger. They observe, then decide. This creates an aura of stability others feel but cannot explain. Guarding attention also protects emotional energy. Many people feel drained not because life is hard, but because their attention is everywhere except where it should be. They replay conversations. They imagine outcomes. They worry about opinions. All of this happens in the mind before anything happens in reality. When attention returns to the present, anxiety weakens. When attention stays with what is controllable, stress reduces. The mind becomes quieter, sharper, more efficient. And efficiency is power. This discipline turns the mind into a tool instead of a battlefield. Thoughts become resources, not enemies. Emotions become signals, not storms. You stop being pulled by every internal impulse and start moving with intention. Focus also deepens patience. When attention is steady, time slows. Decisions improve. Impulses weaken. You stop rushing to react. You wait. And waiting is often the difference between strength and regret. As attention becomes controlled, mental dominance emerges. You are no longer easily disturbed. External chaos loses influence. Internal noise fades. The mind becomes centered. This is not about isolation. It is about sovereignty. You engage with the world without letting it consume you. You remain present without becoming absorbed. And in that balance, the mind becomes guarded, resilient, and untouchable. Control your attention, and you control the gateway to your strength. Nothing enters without permission. Nothing stays without purpose. And in that control, mental peace becomes permanent. When attention is mastered, something profound settles in. The mind no longer feels crowded. Thoughts slow down, emotions soften, reactions lose urgency. This is the moment many people search for their entire lives without knowing what to call it. Inner authority. Not control over others, but command over yourself. Being mentally untouchable does not mean life stops challenging you. It means challenges stop owning you. Pressure still exists, criticism still appears, uncertainty still visits, but none of it penetrates your core. You feel it, acknowledge it, and move forward without internal collapse. This state is built quietly. There is no dramatic shift, no sudden explosion of confidence. Instead, there is consistency. You respond instead of react. You observe instead of absorb. You choose instead of drift. Over time, this consistency becomes identity. Others begin to notice it before you do. They feel your steadiness. Your presence feels grounded. Your words carry weight because they are not rushed. Your silence carries even more weight because it is intentional. You no longer need to prove strength. It is felt. Mentally untouchable people do not seek dominance. They attract respect. They do not intimidate with aggression. They disarm with calm. Their confidence does not fluctuate with success or failure because it is not built on outcomes. It is built on self-trust. Self-trust is the final layer of invincibility. When you trust yourself, fear weakens. You no longer panic about decisions because you know you can adapt. You no longer obsess over outcomes because you believe in your ability to respond. This belief is not blind. It is earned through discipline, awareness, and experience. This trust changes how you move through the world. You stop rushing, you stop forcing, you stop chasing. You allow things to unfold while staying ready to act. Readiness replaces anxiety. Patience replaces desperation. Presence replaces pressure. Mental untouchability also reshapes relationships. You stop tolerating manipulation. You stop explaining your boundaries. You stop engaging in emotional games. You become clear, not cold, firm, not rigid, and clarity naturally filters who stays and who leaves. Some people will feel uncomfortable around you, not because you are distant, but because they can no longer influence you. They cannot provoke reactions. They cannot extract validation. They cannot disrupt your peace. This makes your presence unfamiliar to those who rely on emotional chaos. You do not need to announce this change. It shows in how little you explain, how rarely you react, how steadily you remain yourself regardless of the situation. Consistency becomes your signature. Being mentally untouchable also means you stop fighting yourself. The inner conflict fades. You are no longer torn between impulse and discipline, fear and action, doubt and decision. Alignment forms, and alignment creates momentum. You become selective with energy. You invest it where it matters. You withdraw it where it is wasted. This selectivity creates freedom. Freedom from noise. Freedom from unnecessary struggle. Freedom from mental exhaustion. This state is not emotional numbness. You still care deeply. You still feel fully. But emotions move through you instead of controlling you. You experience life without being consumed by it. This balance is rare and powerful. Mentally untouchable people do not seek peace in the absence of chaos. They carry peace into chaos. They are not unbothered because nothing happens. They are unbothered because they are prepared. Preparation is the real secret. Not preparation for specific events, but preparation of the mind. A mind trained to observe, to detach, to endure, to focus, to trust itself. This preparation cannot be taken away, and this is where everything comes together. Emotional control removes reactivity. Self-validation removes dependence. Pain builds resilience. Focus builds clarity. Together, they create a mind that cannot be easily shaken. You begin to live from the inside out. Decisions come from values, not pressure. Actions come from intention, not impulse. Confidence comes from alignment, not approval. This internal structure makes external chaos irrelevant. Mental untouchability is not about becoming unreachable. It is about becoming unbreakable, calm under pressure, clear under stress, steady under uncertainty. And once you reach this state, you do not need to defend it. You simply live it. This is the quiet power few ever master. And once it is built, nothing outside you can take it away.